The first time the elevator brought him to the 14th floor after midnight, it was already open. Not opening, not humming its way apart with the usual polished patience of a luxury hotel elevator. Open. Waiting. Marcus Vale stood alone inside the mirrored box with one hand resting on his radio and the other wrapped around a paper cup of coffee that had gone cold 20 minutes ago. The elevator should not have stopped on 14. No guest key had been scanned. No call had come from the floor. And yet the display above the door showed a steady red 14, while the hallway beyond sat motionless beneath a row of amber sconces, long and elegant and somehow wrong, as if the corridor had been dressed to resemble a hotel floor by something that had never seen one in daylight. The smell hit him first. Not smoke, not mold, not sewage. Wet wallpaper, old perfume, and underneath both the faint copper smell of pennies pressed into a sweaty palm. At the far end of the hall, room 1408 stood with its door almost shut, leaving only a seam of darkness between the frame and the wood. That darkness looked deeper than the rest of the hall. It looked occupied. Then Marcus's earpiece crackled. Not with dispatch, not with housekeeping. A woman's voice, soft and careful, spoke directly into his ear. "Do not let it hear your real footsteps." Marcus froze. "Welcome back to the channel." Tonight's story begins in one of the oldest luxury hotels in downtown Toronto, where one room had rules nobody ever explained, and one night guard learned why those rules existed in the first place. Before we go any farther, tell me where you are watching from. If true horror, creepy hotel stories, and slow burn nightmares are your kind of thing, like this video, subscribe and leave a comment below. Now turn the lights down, keep the hallway behind you in sight, and listen carefully. Because after midnight in room 1408, the first mistake is usually the last one anyone remembers making. The Ashdown Royale sat in downtown Toronto like a preserved lie. By day, it was all polished brass white gloves, quiet jazz in the lobby, and wealthy travelers pretending they preferred old charm to modern glass towers. The building had opened in the late 1920s and had survived depressions, renovations, ownership changes, a suspicious kitchen fire in the 70s, and a near bankruptcy that somehow transformed it into a boutique landmark instead of a demolition project. Travel magazines loved it. Couples took wedding photos on the grand staircase. Influencers called it timeless. At night, the age showed through. The wood behind the walls clicked as temperatures dropped. Old pipes muttered and tapped like someone speaking with their mouth full. Carpet swallowed sound unevenly. Certain mirrors held reflections a second too long if you were tired enough. Staff joked about the place being alive, but they joked the way people do when they need to stand in the same room as something that makes them uncomfortable. Marcus Vale had worked there for just under 7 months. He was 34, former mall security, former hospital security, the kind of man who had built a whole life around staying calm when other people were losing their nerve. He was not a hero and did not imagine himself as one. He liked predictable problems, drunk businessmen, door alarms, delivery mix-ups, the occasional fight in the bar downstairs. He liked reports, camera logs, schedules, key records, and things that could be written down in clean language and handed to a manager by morning. The night shift at the Ashdown Royale suited him at first. From 11 in the evening until 7 in the morning, the hotel became a machine, running on lower light and softer voices. The day staff went home. The concierge desk shrank to one tired face. Housekeeping disappeared into service corridors. Valet traffic died. The city outside turned glossy and black with rain and headlights. Marcus walked his circuits, watched the camera feeds, checked the service doors, signed off on vendor access, and responded when some guest locked themselves out after too many drinks in the cocktail lounge. He liked the quiet, but the quiet in the Ashdown had structure to it. After a month, Marcus began to notice small things. The fourth-floor service phone would ring once at 3:13 every Thursday, though no call ever registered in the system. A painting in the east stairwell was always slightly crooked after storms, even though nobody was caught touching it. Housekeepers refused to stock the linen closet on 14 alone. They would do it in pairs, talking too loudly, leaving too quickly. The maintenance supervisor, an older man named Rafik, who had worked in the building for 22 years, once told Marcus never to whistle on the 14th floor after midnight. He said it with a smile, but his eyes stayed serious. Old buildings keep sound, Rafik had said, while replacing a cracked wall sconce on 12. And sometimes they give it back wrong. Marcus laughed because that was the only reasonable response. Rafik did not. There were other things, too. The way new hires stopped asking about certain maintenance requests after being ignored long enough. The way front desk staff lowered their voices when talking about a guest complaint tied to 14, then changed the subject when Marcus entered the room. The way the computer system sometimes showed room 1408 as vacant, even while luggage was photographed going into it by Bell's staff. More than once, Marcus saw a booking assigned there at check-in only to disappear from the digital board an hour later, as if the room had changed its mind. When Marcus asked the night manager, a tired woman named Elise, with perfect posture and permanent shadows under her eyes, she answered too quickly. Software issue. He asked why the room keys for 1408 were still issued on old-fashioned black cards instead of the standard white RFID cards used everywhere else in the hotel. Branding choice. He asked why a guest had checked out from 1410 at 4 in the morning barefoot and crying, refusing to wait for a cab, insisting only that the knocking had come from the wrong wall. Elise stared at him for a second too long and said, "Some people should not stay in heritage properties." Marcus learned the unspoken rules of the place in fragments. Never tell a guest a room number aloud if you can point instead. Never stand between the ballroom mirrors after 2 in the morning. Never take lost property from 14 to the basement holding room before sunrise. And if dispatch ever asked for a welfare check on room 1408 after midnight, Marcus was to call Elise first. Always Elise, even if she had already gone home. Even if she did not answer. That last part bothered him most. Not because it sounded supernatural. Marcus did not believe in ghosts, curses, or haunted rooms with selective staffing protocols. It bothered him because it suggested risk the hotel was managing off the books. Human risk. The kind companies buried under polite language and liability waivers. He began paying more attention. The Ashdown Royale's 14th floor was smaller than the others, a leftover from partial redesigns decades ago. The hallway bent at odd angles. The ceilings lowered by just enough to change the acoustics. Room 1408 sat at the far inner curve near the sealed service stairwell and above an old section of the building no longer shown on guest maps. The room itself was technically a premium suite, restored in period decor cream wallpaper with faded gold branching vines, dark walnut writing desk, antique wardrobe, clawfoot tub in the adjoining bath, heavy curtains overlooking a narrow slice of Adelaide Street. The hotel advertised it online as one of its most atmospheric rooms. Atmospheric was one word for it. Nobody on staff wanted it during inventory checks. Nobody lingered outside it. And the few times Marcus passed by during his rounds, he noticed that the air near its door always felt cooler than the rest of the floor, as though the room breathed inward. 2 weeks before everything changed, Marcus found a handwritten note taped inside the security office supply cabinet behind a stack of printer paper. It was not addressed to anyone. It was written in block capitals on hotel letterhead that looked years old. If 1408 calls after 12, do not call back. If a guest leaves the room crying, let them leave. If the room is empty but the curtains are open, contact Elise. Do not send housekeeping until sunrise. No signature, no date. Marcus brought it to Elise on her next overnight. She read it once, folded it, slid it into her blazer pocket and said, "You did not find that." Marcus had stared at her. She met his eyes without blinking. "And if you are smart, you will stop being curious about rooms that still make money." That should have been the end of it. A normal man would have let the silence stay buried. A normal guard would have accepted that rich old hotels were built on secrets, most of them boring. Some of them ugly, none of them worth losing sleep over. But Marcus had already started noticing another detail. Every incident tied to room 1408 happened after midnight. And every report, no matter how minor, ended before 3:17 in the morning, as if whatever happened there preferred not to be described after that hour. The night that broke the pattern began with snow. Toronto had been warm for weeks, slushy and gray winter dragging itself unwillingly through the city. Then, just after sunset, the temperature dropped hard. By 11, wet flakes were spinning under the streetlights outside the Ashdown Royale, dusting the sidewalks, blurring taillights, turning the windows of the lobby into black mirrors streaked with white. Marcus started his shift at 10:45, signed the log, checked the camera bank, and traded a few words with the evening supervisor before taking over. Occupancy was high. A finance conference had overflowed half the upper floors. There was a wedding party on 8. 2 celebrity guests were using aliases on 10. The usual quiet, wealthy chaos. Room 1408 was marked occupied. Guest name Daniel Mercer. That made Marcus pause, not because Mercer was rare, but because it was his own last name. He clicked into the booking. No corporate account, no travel agency. 1 night only. Checked in at 2314 with 1 leather suitcase and no requested amenities. Payment authorized through a digital wallet that obscured the card details. No unusual notes. Marcus almost laughed at himself for feeling a chill then. Coincidences happened. Names repeated. Toronto was full of Mercers. Still, he looked at the camera clip attached to the check-in file. The image quality was excellent in the lobby. Marcus saw the guest from above and slightly behind as he approached the desk. Tall man, dark overcoat, hat, low face, angled away from camera. Elise had checked him in personally. That alone was unusual. She rarely left the back office unless she had to. In the footage, she handed over the black keycard for 1408 without her standard welcoming smile. Then the guest turned slightly. Not enough for a full face. Enough for Marcus to feel an unexpected pressure in his stomach. The man's build resembled his own. The posture, too. Broad shoulders, slight stiffness in the right side of the neck. Even the habit of keeping his left hand half closed while standing still. Marcus replayed it twice and told himself he was tired. At 11:58, the desk phone rang in security. He answered with the standard greeting. Silence filled the line, but not empty silence. Breathing. Slow, measured, close enough that it sounded like the caller's mouth was against the receiver. Security, Marcus repeated. Then a man said very softly, "I think someone is inside the walls." The line clicked dead. Marcus checked the display. No number. Internal transfer only. He traced the call source through the console. Room 1408. He stared at it for a moment, then called front desk. A young desk clerk named Naomi picked up. "Did you just transfer a guest call from 1408? "No," she said immediately. "I have not touched the console in 10 minutes. Ellie's there." A pause. "She is in the records room. Tell her 1408 called security." Another pause, longer this time. "I will tell her." Marcus waited for instructions that did not come. By policy, a vague guest distress call warranted a welfare check. By Ashdown's unspoken rules, room 1408 warranted hesitation. Marcus stood, clipped his flashlight to his belt, adjusted his jacket, and headed for the staff elevator. Halfway there, Elise called his radio. Her voice sounded thinner than usual. "Marcus, I am on my way to 14. Number." He stopped beside the ice machine alcove on 2. "Guest said someone is inside the walls." "I know what the guest said." "Then what do you want me to do?" There was static. "Then wait until 12:15. Marcus frowned. "If somebody is in distress, I am not waiting 17 minutes because the room has folklore attached to it." "Marcus?" She almost whispered his name. "Please." He had never heard Elise sound afraid before. That bothered him more than the call. "Why 12:15? No answer. Why?" When she finally spoke, her voice had hardened into something managerial and cold. "Because I am giving you a direct instruction. Wait until 12:15. Do not go to the room before then. Do not call the room back. And if the phone in your office rings again, let it ring." The radio went dead. Marcus stood listening to the hush of the guest corridor, the far-off chiming elevator, the low mechanical breath of the building. He looked at his watch. Midnight. He lasted 4 minutes. By 12:04, he was in the elevator going up to 14 with his pulse just high enough to irritate him. He told himself this was about duty, not curiosity. If a guest was hallucinating, intoxicated, or being threatened, waiting could make things worse. Hotels hid incidents all the time. He was security, not superstition control. The elevator ride felt longer than usual. When the doors opened, the corridor was empty. No voices, no televisions, no movement beneath any door. The floor smelled faintly of lemon polish and old radiator heat. Marcus stepped out and the sound changed at once. Every hotel had its own acoustic profile. Marcus knew this building's late-night sounds well enough to notice when one layer vanished. On 14, the distant hum of ventilation seemed muted, as though the hall were wrapped in fabric. His own shoes landed too softly on the carpet. Even the radio hiss at his shoulder sounded far away. He walked toward room 1408. The hallway lights glowed warm and steady. Framed black and white photographs of Toronto from the 1930s lined the wall. King Street streetcars, Union Station crowds, women in cloche hats outside department stores. Marcus passed them and realized every glass surface held his reflection except one. The frame nearest 1408 showed only the corridor behind him. He stopped, turned back. Now it reflected him normally. He kept walking. At room 1406, he noticed a room service tray sitting untouched against the wall, silver cover still in place. A cup of coffee beside its skin formed over the surface. The order ticket read 11:27 p.m. For room 1408. Marcus crouched. The coffee was cold. He stood and pressed his ear lightly to 1408's door. Nothing. He knocked. Security. Silence. He knocked again louder. Mr. Mercer Hotel Security. This time he heard movement, but not from inside the main room. It came from lower down and farther back, like something dragging itself across wood behind a wall. Marcus's scalp tightened. He tried the handle with his master keycard ready. The door was unlocked. That, more than anything, sharpened his nerves. Luxury hotel guests did not leave doors unlatched after midnight. He pushed the door inward. The suite was dark except for the bathroom light, which shone across the carpet in a flat yellow sheet. Heavy curtains were open over the tall window, revealing snowfall past the glass and the red aircraft warning lights blinking atop distant towers. The room's old furniture cast thick, patient shadows. A suitcase sat open on the bench at the foot of the bed, but there were almost no clothes inside. Just neatly folded tissue paper and a single men's dress shoe. The bed had not been slept in. Mr. Mercer, no response. Marcus stepped farther inside. The temperature dropped enough for him to see the faintest cloud of his own breath. On the writing desk, a piece of hotel stationery lay flat beneath the lamp. 6 lines had been written in dark ink, all in the same narrow hand. Room 1408. After midnight. 1. Do not answer if someone knocks from inside the closet. 2. If the bathroom mirror shows the window, leave your shoes by the door. 3. Do not say your name aloud. 4. If you hear breathing under the bed, stand on the chair. 5. When the telephone rings at 3:17, let the voice finish. 6. If you see yourself, enter the room. Hide before he looks up. Marcus read the list twice. Then a soft tapping began from inside the wardrobe. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Pause. The old walnut wardrobe stood near the bathroom door, its mirrored front turned slightly toward the bed. Marcus felt his body move into a more alert posture without conscious thought. Adrenaline flattened everything. Fear became procedure. He approached slowly, one hand on the flashlight, the other near the baton at his belt. The tapping stopped. He reached for the wardrobe handle. His radio erupted with static so violent he flinched. Elisa's voice burst through, loud and distorted. Get out of the room. Marcus, get out now. At that exact moment, the wardrobe mirror changed. It no longer reflected the room behind him. It reflected the hotel corridor outside, empty, except for a man standing at the threshold with one hand on the doorknob. A man in a security jacket. Marcus turned sharply. The suite door stood open to the hallway. No one was there. He looked back at the wardrobe. The reflection showed the doorway still, but now the man in the security jacket had stepped into the room. His face remained angled down, hidden. His left hand was half closed. Marcus dropped the flashlight. It hit the carpet with a muffled thud. Every survival instinct he had screamed at once, but not with clarity. The room had become wrong in too many directions. Wardrobe reflection false. Radio screaming. Unknown guest missing. Temperature dropping. Possible intruder. Possible gas leak. Possible prank. Possible nervous breakdown. None of those explanations could hold all the details at once. He backed toward the door. Then he heard the bathroom sink running. He had not heard it turn on. Water splashed gently in the adjoining bath, followed by a small sound like someone clearing their throat. Marcus did not look. He got into the hallway and pulled the suite door shut harder than he meant to, then stood breathing too fast with cold sweat under his collar. His radio settled into a hiss. Marcus, Elise said, voice small again. Are you out? Yes. Come downstairs. There is nobody in that room. He looked at the black card slot, the brass room number, the motionless door. And there is definitely somebody in that room. Come downstairs. What is 1408? Static. Then not on the radio. The line died. Marcus started back toward the elevator and nearly collided with a woman standing halfway down the hall. She was elderly, narrow-shouldered, wrapped in a dark housekeeping cardigan, though no housekeeper worked guest floors at that hour. Her hair was white and pinned back. Her face had the washed-out look of someone seen through old film. Marcus had not heard her approach. "Sir," she said quietly, "you left before it chose." Marcus stared. "I'm sorry." Her gaze shifted to room 1408. "You went in before 12:15. The blood seemed to drain from his hands. "Who are you?" She did not answer. Instead, she extended one thin hand. Resting in her palm was Marcus's dropped flashlight. He had left it inside the room. He took an involuntary step back. The woman's expression changed very slightly, not into a smile, but into something worse, something like recognition. Then the elevator behind Marcus chimed. He turned at the sound. When he looked back, the hallway was empty. No woman, no footsteps, no housekeeping cart, nothing. Only the flashlight in his hand, cold as if it had been buried in snow. When Marcus got downstairs, Elise was already waiting in the security office with the door closed and the blinds drawn. She did not ask him to sit. Instead, she opened a desk drawer, removed a yellowed folder bound with a faded elastic strap, and placed it on the table between them. On the front, typed in old hotel administrative font, were the words, "Ashdown Royale Incident Archive Room, 1408. Marcus looked up at her. Elise said, "Now you need to know the rules." The folder smelled like dust and damp paper, the kind of smell trapped in records rooms where air never fully moves. Marcus opened it with Elise standing across from him, arms folded so tightly she looked as if she were trying to hold herself together by force. Inside were photocopied guest complaints, handwritten maintenance notes, newspaper clippings, insurance correspondence, internal memos, witness statements, and pages of incident logs stretching back decades. Some pages were crisp and recent. Others were browned and brittle at the edges. The room number appeared again and again in different typefaces across different eras, like a name that refused to leave the building's bloodstream. At first, the report sounded mundane. Guest reported whispering from vent. Guest requested room change due to repeated smell of wet roses. Housekeeper states television turned on despite disconnected power source. Bellman refused entry after hearing his own voice say good evening from inside unoccupied room. Then the tone changed. 1986 guest found in hallway, wearing only one shoe, unable to remember own name for 6 hours. 1994 night clerk took call from 1408 from a man who had checked out the previous evening. 2003 couple insisted they had slept in the suite together, but camera records showed only the wife ever entering. Husband reported missing for 9 hours later, found in banquet storage 1 floor below with severe dehydration and scratches on both palms. 2011 contractor sealing obsolete wall access behind suite reported human knocking from the other side of finished masonry. Refused further work on project. Marcus felt an unpleasant heat spread under his skin as he turned pages. At the back of the folder sat a typed sheet on newer paper with the heading, Protocol Room 1408/midnight to 3:18 a.m. Below it were the same 6 rules he had seen on the desk, but expanded with notes beneath each one. 1. Do not answer if someone knocks from inside the closet. Several subjects opened the wardrobe or responded verbally. Outcomes varied. None were favorable. 2. If the bathroom mirror shows the window, leave your shoes by the door. Subjects who remained shod reported being unable to hear approaching movement. 3. Do not say your name aloud. The room repeats accurately. 4. If you hear breathing under the bed, stand on the chair. Floor-level contact increases physical incidence. 5. When the telephone rings at 3:17, let the voice finish. Interrupted calls correlate with post-event duplication phenomena. 6. If you see yourself, enter the room, hide before he looks up. This stage has only one recorded survivor. At the bottom was a final note in pen. Never enter before 12:15 unless invited by a registered occupant. Never allow a guest with the same surname as on-duty staff to check into the room. Marcus looked up so abruptly, his chair legs scraped the tile. Elise, she exhaled through her nose. Yes, you put someone with my last name in that room. No, she said. The booking was hidden in the system until after check-in. It bypassed the manual room block. That is not an answer. It is the only one I have. Marcus leaned back, disgusted, frightened, angry now, in a useful way. What exactly are you telling me? That your luxury hotel has a haunted suite that writes instructions and books guests under staff surnames? Elise did not flinch. I am telling you the room behaves according to patterns, and we survive by respecting those patterns. That is insane. Yes, her voice turned flat. It is also true. Marcus shut the folder. What happened to the guest? We do not know. Was there ever a Daniel Mercer checked into this hotel tonight? Elise hesitated. That was answer enough. Marcus stood. You have got to be kidding me. She spoke before he could continue. The check-in camera shows a man. The key record shows the room was entered. The luggage camera shows a suitcase delivered. Housekeeping set the room at 6. Front desk processed a valid authorization. Everything on paper says a guest arrived. But no arrival record exists before 11:14. No outside camera caught him entering the building. No street camera shows a taxi drop-off. And the digital payment token belongs to an account closed 4 years ago after the owner died in Ottawa. That stopped him cold. Snow ticked softly against the security office window somewhere down the hall. The camera bank hummed. On one monitor, the empty lobby glowed gold and still. Marcus forced himself to ask, why is the hotel still renting the room? Elise gave him a tired look older than the rest of her face. Because every attempt to seal it failed. He laughed once without humor. She continued anyway. They renovated it 3 times. They turned it into storage. They left it vacant for a year. They removed the furniture. They blessed it. They held a press event to relaunch it under a different number. No matter what management did, 1408 kept appearing in the system. Not every night, not every week, just often enough. If the room wanted to be occupied, it got occupied. Marcus said nothing. Elise reached into the folder and withdrew a glossy staff photograph from years ago. A younger Elise stood in the lobby beside a shorter woman with silver hair pinned back and a crisp housekeeping uniform. Marcus felt the room tilt slightly. That is her. Elena Ward, Elise said. Executive housekeeper, died in 2009. Marcus stared at the face. Same narrow shoulders, same careful expression. The woman from the hall. She wrote most of the protocols. She spent more time dealing with 1408 than anyone else here. You are saying I met a dead housekeeper in the corridor. I am saying that if Elena appeared to you, then you triggered something earlier than expected. Marcus rubbed a hand over his mouth, thinking fast and badly. He wanted coffee sunlight, a fire alarm, anything ordinary. Instead, he had an archive of impossible events and a dead employee returning lost flashlights. He looked at the clock on the wall. 12:46 a.m. What happens at 3:17? Elise's answer came too fast. We do not let it get that far. Before Marcus could ask what that meant, the phone on the security desk rang. Both of them jumped. Not the office landline. The old red internal line mounted on the wall beside the incident cabinet, a line Marcus had never once seen used. It rang again. Elise closed her eyes for half a second. Do not answer. Marcus stared at it. Who uses that phone? The ringing continued, steady, patient. No caller ID, no system light, just the sound. Elise repeated, do not answer. The phone stopped. Silence rushed in behind it so hard Marcus heard the blood in his own ears. Then every monitor on the camera bank flickered at once. Lobby, ballroom entrance, east stairwell, loading bay, service corridor, 14th floor. Each feed rolled into gray static for 2 seconds and returned. When the image on 14 came back, Marcus leaned in. The hallway outside room 1408 was crowded, not with moving people, with figures standing perfectly still at different distances from the camera, all facing the lens. Men and women in hotel uniforms from different eras. A bellhop in old-fashioned cap and jacket. A maid in a 1950s dress uniform. A bartender in suspenders. A modern housekeeper. A woman in evening wear. A doorman. All pale, all silent. All arranged along the corridor walls like guests waiting for a performance to begin. In the center nearest the room stood Elena Ward. She raised one hand and tapped the face of the camera. The feed cut to black. Marcus stumbled back from the desk. Elise moved before he did, keys already in hand. Come on, where? 2:14. Marcus stared at her. You just spent 20 minutes telling me not to get near that room. If the corridor has filled, it means the sequence is advancing. She was already at the door. If the sequence reaches the phone call at 3:17 with no occupant following the rules, the room starts looking for one. Marcus hated that he understood what she meant. They took the service stairs instead of the elevator. Elise climbed faster than he expected, not speaking until they reached 12 and paused to catch breath beside the landing window where snow whirled past the glass. "I need you to listen carefully now," she said. "Not debate, not argue." Marcus nodded once. "If the room offers you a choice, do not improve on it. Do exactly what it asks or do nothing at all. Those are the only safe options. What does it want?" Her eyes slid away. "A witness. Sometimes a replacement. Sometimes only attention. That is not helpful. It is the best language I have." They continued up. At the 14th floor landing, the service door refused to open. Marcus pushed harder. The crash bar moved, but the door itself felt held shut by pressure from the other side. Elise swore under her breath, something Marcus had never heard from her. "Back to the guest elevator," she said. They crossed the corridor to the main hall and waited for the car. While they waited, Marcus heard a faint, dragging shuffle from above them inside the walls, moving parallel to the elevator shaft, as though something were descending floor by floor without using stairs cables or gravity the right way. The elevator doors opened. Inside stood the man from the wardrobe mirror. Security jacket, same build as Marcus, head tilted down. For one deranged second, Marcus believed he was looking into an actual mirror. Then he noticed the jacket patch. It carried an older version of the Ashdown logo, discontinued years ago. Elise whispered, "Do not speak to him." The man lifted his head. Marcus saw his own face, but wrong in small, ruinous ways. Skin too pale, eyes a fraction too deep. Smile beginning where no smile belonged. Marcus grabbed Elise's arm and pulled her back just as the figure stepped forward out of the elevator. Its shoes made no sound. Its left hand remained half closed. The elevator doors shut behind it. It stood in the center of the corridor and looked at Marcus with intimate patience, like something that had spent a very long time practicing his expression. Then it spoke in Marcus's voice. "You left your name upstairs." The hallway lights dimmed. Elise shoved a small brass object into Marcus's hand, an old luggage room key, heavy and cold. "Run to the linen closet by 1412, she said. "If the bed starts breathing, get off the floor." "What are you doing?" "Buying us time." Before he could stop her, Elise stepped toward the thing wearing his face and said in a clear, formal tone, like a woman greeting a guest at reception, "Room 1408 remains under internal hold." The figure turned its head toward her with mechanical precision. Marcus ran. The corridor seemed longer now, stretched in subtle ways that made the walls feel further apart and the lights farther from one another. He passed doors whose brass numbers looked slightly melted at the edges. Somewhere behind him, Elise spoke in clipped phrases Marcus could not make out, and another voice answered in his own tone. Then came a sound like wet fabric being pulled across carpet. Marcus did not look back. He reached the linen closet near 1412 and used the brass key. The lock clicked open on the first try. Inside, shelves of folded towels and duvet covers towered around a narrow standing space. The air smelled of bleach starch and something older underneath, like flowers left too long in water. He shut the door, leaving it open just enough to watch the crack. The corridor outside had gone strangely dim, as though the sconces were shining through smoke. Shadows moved in ways detached from their objects. Marcus tried his radio, only static. Then, very softly from directly below him, came the sound of someone inhaling, a slow, congested breath. From under the floor, Marcus looked down in horror at the closet tiles. Another breath rose through them, then another, each one closer to his shoes than the laws of architecture should allow. Rule 4. If you hear breathing under the bed, stand on the chair. There was no chair in the linen closet. Marcus scanned wildly and saw only a low folding step stool tucked against the shelving. He dragged it out and climbed onto it just as the next breath came louder, accompanied by a faint scraping like fingernails testing the underside of tile. Outside the closet, footsteps approached, not Elise's fast, practical stride. These steps were careful, measured with deliberate pauses between them, as if the walker were learning how to imitate human timing. The footsteps stopped at the closet door. Marcus held his breath. A knuckle tapped the wood from the hallway side. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. The same pattern from the wardrobe. Then his own voice spoke through the crack. "Marcus." He squeezed his eyes shut. The voice continued, gentle and tired and almost affectionate. "You do not have to hide from yourself." Something shifted at floor level outside. A shadow blocked the narrow strip of light beneath the door. Marcus felt the step stool tremble under him. Then another sound came from the corridor farther away, a telephone ringing. Not from the security office, not from a nearby guest room. From inside room 1408. Once, twice, 3 times, the figure outside the closet went silent. When it spoke again, the imitation had slipped. Too many consonants, too much breath. "It is early," it said. The hallway lights cut out. Darkness swallowed the crack under the closet door, and for one suspended second, Marcus could hear 3 separate things at once. The phone continuing to ring from 1408. The breath under the floor quickening with hunger and footsteps beginning again in the corridor, not one set now, but many moving softly toward room 1408, as if summoned by the sound. Marcus understood then that whatever the rules were meant to prevent the hotel had already failed to prevent it. And somewhere beyond the closet door, wearing his face and using his voice, something was waiting for him to forget one of them first. The ringing stopped so abruptly that Marcus thought for one disorienting instant he had gone deaf. Then the corridor filled with another sound. Not footsteps now, listening. That was the only way his mind could shape it. Beyond the closet door, the silence had texture, as if a crowd had gathered just outside, and all of it had leaned inward at once. The breathing under the floor kept rising in wet, eager pulls. The thing wearing Marcus's face no longer spoke. It did not need to. The room at the end of the hall had made its call, and everything on that floor seemed to have turned toward it. Marcus stayed on the folding stool with his knees bent, and one palm pressed flat against the metal shelving to steady himself. Cold, bleach air filled his lungs. The brass key Elise had shoved into his hand dug into his fingers. He tried to think like a guard, like a man trained to assess exits and risks, but the hotel had slipped too far from procedure. There were no policies for a hallway full of dead staff and an occupied room trying to borrow your name. Then he heard Elise scream. It was not a theatrical scream, not a horror movie shriek. It was short, raw, ripped out of her and cut off midway through as if a hand had clamped over her mouth. Marcus moved before reason could stop him. He dropped from the stool, kicked the closet door open, and stepped into a corridor, lit only by the emergency strips running dim red along the baseboards. The sconces above had gone black. In that low red wash, the 14th floor looked less like a luxury hotel and more like a submerged ruin. The hallway was no longer empty. Figures stood shoulder to shoulder along both walls exactly as they had on camera. Hotel staff from different decades. Bellmen, maids, bartenders, porters, guests in evening clothes, all motionless, all turned toward room 1408. Their skin carried the pale, waxy cast of things preserved badly. Their eyes did not shine. They absorbed light. Marcus had the terrible sense that none of them were fully present until looked at directly, and that being looked at was what held them in place. At the far end of the hall, just short of the room, Elise knelt on one knee, with one hand braced against the carpet as though she had fallen hard. The thing wearing Marcus's face stood over her. It had one hand wrapped around her radio, not holding it, crushing it. Plastic cracked softly in its grip. Marcus shouted her name. Every head in the corridor turned toward him at once. The figure with his face smiled properly now. Not a human smile. Too many teeth visible. Too deliberate. "You came back," it said in Marcus's voice. The words moved through the hall strangely. Some of the silent figures mouthed them half a second later. Marcus forced his eyes to Elise. "Can you move?" She looked up. There was blood at the corner of her mouth. "Do not let it look under the closet," she whispered. Marcus had no idea what that meant. The figure released the ruined radio, and it fell to the carpet. "You entered without invitation," it said. "You left before selection. You abandoned your reflection. You abandoned your name. Now the room requires correction." Marcus took one step backward without meaning to. The corridor answered him. From somewhere beneath the carpet near the walls came a series of soft knocks like knuckles from under floorboards. The standing figures did not move, but their heads tilted in tiny increments, curious, eager. Marcus's flashlight was still clipped to his belt. He snatched it free and clicked it on. The beam struck the thing's face. For half a breath it remained Marcus. Then the features shivered out of alignment. The skin slackened first as if loosened from the structure beneath it. Eyes sank too deep and widened at the same time. The smile split farther than cheeks should allow. Under the surface, other arrangements of face seemed to press briefly upward like shapes testing thin ice. Marcus saw a stranger, then, a dead-eyed bellhop, then an older man with half his jaw missing, then his own face again, all in the space of a blink. Marcus nearly dropped the light. The thing recoiled one sharp step, not in pain, but in irritation. "Elise," Marcus shouted. "What hurts it?" "Nothing hurts it," she snapped. "The rules delay it." That was somehow worse. The phone inside room 1408 began ringing again. Once, twice, 3 times. The suite door, which Marcus knew had been shut, now stood open. Warm yellow bathroom light spilled into the red dark corridor. The interior looked exactly as before. At a glance, bed, desk, open curtains, wardrobe near the bath. But the room felt deeper now, as though the far wall had withdrawn. The darkness beyond the bathroom seemed to recede forever. On the writing desk, the list of rules sat beneath the lamp. One line had changed. 5. When the telephone rings at 3:17, let the voice finish. The clock in the hallway showed 3:16. Marcus's stomach turned to ice. "That is not possible," he said. "It does not keep our time," Elise said, hauling herself upright with visible effort. "Marcus, listen. If it called early, it means it moved the sequence forward because you broke it. If nobody answers correctly now, the floor will not reset." "What does answer correctly mean?" Elise looked at him with naked fear. "It wants the witness to stay until the end." Before Marcus could ask end of what the figures along the walls stirred. Not walking, not stepping. They leaned, all of them, toward the room like flowers tracking light. Their mouths opened in small identical shapes. A breath swept down the corridor, dozens of mouths inhaling at once. The thing with Marcus's face turned toward room 1408, as though called by a superior. "It is time," it said softly. Then it rushed him. It crossed half the hall without apparent motion, 1 second near the suite, the next close enough that Marcus smelled wet wallpaper and pennies, and old perfume pouring off it like humidity. He shoved the flashlight forward out of reflex. The beam hit its eyes. It jerked its head sideways enough to miss his throat with what looked like a hand, but landed more like a bundle of cold cables striking his shoulder. Marcus slammed into the wall beneath a black and white photograph, pain exploding down his arm. Elise grabbed a silver service tray from the abandoned room service cart against the wall and swung it two-handed into the thing's back. The metal hit with a deep bell-like note that did not match flesh at all. The thing twisted toward her, and in that turn, Marcus saw its outline blur at the edges as though it were not fully committed to one shape. "Get in the room," Elise shouted. Marcus stared at her as if she had lost her mind. "It wants the sequence completed," she yelled. "Outside the room, it takes whatever it needs. Inside, it has to follow form." The corridor figures began knocking softly against the walls in unison. Marcus ran for the open suite. He crossed the threshold just as the telephone rang again, shrill and antique. The room's air clamped around him like cold lungs. Behind him, Elise stumbled in and shoved the door shut. The latch clicked. At once, the knocking in the corridor stopped. Silence. Then something slid under the bed. Marcus heard it clearly. A long, deliberate movement from the far side to the near side, close enough that the bed skirt rippled slightly. Breathing followed, under the bed. "Rule 4, chair," Elise whispered. Marcus dragged the desk chair across the carpet and climbed onto it, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. Elise did not. She remained on the floor by the door, one hand pressed to the wood head, turned as if listening to the corridor beyond. "Get up," Marcus hissed. "I cannot leave the door unwatched." "Why?" "Because if I hear myself asking to be let in, you are not to open it." Marcus stared at her. The phone rang again. On the 5th ring, it stopped. No one had answered. For one horrible moment, Marcus thought they had already failed. Then the receiver lifted by itself with a soft click. A voice began speaking through the old hotel telephone, low and male, as though calling from a tunnel. "Good evening," it said. "This is the Ashdown Royale operator. I am sorry to disturb you at this hour. Before we proceed, kindly confirm the name under which you are staying." Marcus felt every muscle in his body lock. "Rule 3, do not say your name aloud." The voice continued, patient and perfectly polite. "We appear to have a discrepancy in the record. Kindly confirm your full name." Under the bed, the breathing quickened. Elise kept her face to the door and said without turning, "Do not answer." "Let it finish." The operator's voice paused. "Very well. Then perhaps you would prefer to confirm whether you entered this room willingly." Marcus said nothing. Perhaps the voice said, just a shade warmer, "Now you would prefer to confirm whether you remember leaving." The bathroom mirror caught his eye. It no longer reflected the bathroom. It reflected the window. Rule 2. If the bathroom mirror shows the window, leave your shoes by the door. Marcus almost argued with himself from pure panic. His shoes were in the middle of this. Then the wardrobe knocked from the inside. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Marcus climbed awkwardly off the chair, keeping his feet away from the underside of the bed, and kicked off his shoes. He slid them toward the door where they came to rest beside Elise's hand. The moment his socks touched the carpet, he heard something he had not heard before, movement in the room approaching from behind him. Soft, careful, human paced. He turned. In the bathroom mirror, reflected through the impossible window image, he saw himself entering the suite. Not the creature from the hall. Not wrong enough. This looked exactly like Marcus. Same uniform, same tense jaw, same bruised shoulder, same flashlight. It stepped through the suite door, which in the reflection stood open, though in reality it was shut, and eased into the room with the wary posture of a guard on a welfare check. Rule 6. If you see yourself enter the room, hide before he looks up. Marcus's blood went cold in a new way. He was already in the room. Where was he supposed to hide? Elise, he whispered. She understood immediately. Closet, now. The wardrobe knocked again. Not that closet, she snapped. Bathroom curtain. Marcus moved. The clawfoot tub stood behind a long cream shower curtain. He slipped behind it just as the reflected Marcus lifted his head. In the narrow space between curtain and wall, Marcus could see the room in fragments through a gap in the fabric. The telephone sat off the hook on the bedside table, voice still murmuring. Elise remained by the door, frighteningly still. The bed skirt rose and fell with breath from beneath. Then Marcus heard the suite door open. Not in the reflection, in the room. His double entered. He looked exactly right. That was the worst part. No distortion, no pale skin, no shark smile. Just Marcus Vale, tired night guard, entering carefully with a flashlight in one hand and concern on his face. He closed the door behind him and scanned the suite. When his beam passed over the chair, the shoes by the door, the off-hook telephone, he frowned as if trying to piece together a scene left for him by someone else. The operator's voice sharpened from the phone. You have been duplicated due to non-compliance. Please remain still while records are amended. The second Marcus turned toward the sound. Elise spoke for the first time since he entered. You are late. The double's expression shifted minutely. Traffic, he said. Marcus behind the curtain felt his throat close. That was his voice, his dry humor, even the timing. Elise said, who checked you in? The double did not answer at once. His gaze moved slowly across the room until it landed on the bathroom mirror. Marcus saw the exact moment it understood. Its eyes cut toward the curtain. Marcus yanked it aside and drove forward with the only heavy object within reach, the porcelain soap dish from the tub ledge. He smashed it into the side of the double's head. The impact cracked the dish and sent the thing reeling, but there was no blood. Instead, the skin dented like wet paper and sprang partly back. Elise lunged for the telephone and shouted into it, "The witness refuses replacement." The room changed. Every light went out except the bathroom bulb, which flared so bright the wallpaper pattern stood out in savage detail. The bed lifted off the floor by 1 inch and slammed back down. The curtain snapped inward, though the window was closed. The wardrobe doors flew open. Inside the wardrobe stood not shelves, not hanging robes, but a narrow service corridor lined with old hotel wallpaper and lit by a single bare bulb at the far end. The corridor was impossible, too long, too deep, extending into the building where no such space existed. Along its walls hung coats, uniforms, dresses, all swaying gently as if people had just stepped out of them. And at the far end, facing away, stood a man in a security jacket. Marcus's double made a sound between rage and relief and bolted toward the wardrobe. Elise screamed, "Do not let it reach the hall!" Marcus caught the thing at the shoulders just before the threshold. They crashed together into the wardrobe frame, splintering old wood. Up close, the double lost its borrowed warmth. Its body felt fever-cold, dense in some places and insubstantial in others, like wrestling a stack of wet coats wrapped around steel rods. It drove an elbow into Marcus's ribs with enough force to knock the air from him. Marcus held on anyway. The impossible corridor inside the wardrobe filled with movement. The hanging garments along the walls swelled outward as if bodies were climbing back into them from within. Hands appeared in sleeves. Faces pushed dimly through coat linings. The man at the far end of the corridor began walking toward them without lifting his feet. Elise seized the hotel stationery list from the desk, shoved past Marcus, and slapped it against the double's chest. "Selection denied," she said through clenched teeth. The paper stuck. The double convulsed. For one impossible second, it cycled through other appearances, the way the hallway thing had bellhop housekeeper, stranger woman in pearls. Marcus, again a child, a ruined face with no eyes. Then Marcus faster and faster until its outline blurred. The operator's voice boomed from the telephone, no longer polite, no longer even singular. Dozens of voices spoke over one another. Name required. Witness required. Floor not reset. Name required. The breathing beneath the bed exploded into frantic gasps. Something struck the underside of the mattress hard enough to buck it upward. Marcus shoved the convulsing figure fully into the wardrobe corridor. It hit the carpet inside and slid farther than physics allowed, dragged backward by unseen hands. The coats along the walls leaned in around it. Sleeves wrapped its arms. A cluster of hands closed over its mouth before it could scream properly. Then the man at the far end reached it. He bent down, lifted his face. Marcus saw not his own features, not even a human face, but a shifting blankness like skin stretched over moving machinery. Where eyes should have been, there were only dark cavities reflecting hotel light from decades that no longer existed. The wardrobe doors slammed shut on it. At once, the room went still. The telephone receiver dropped back into its cradle. The bed settled. The bathroom light returned to normal. Marcus and Elise stood gasping in the middle of the suite, surrounded by antique furniture and silence so total it made the earlier chaos feel imagined. Then someone knocked gently from inside the wardrobe. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Neither of them moved. The mirror above the bathroom sink now reflected only the bathroom. The clock on the bedside table read 3:18 a.m. Elise sagged against the wall and let out a laugh that was one part relief and one part near hysteria. Marcus was about to speak when the wardrobe handle began turning from the inside. Slowly, patiently, and a voice that sounded exactly like Elise whispered through the wood. Marcus opened the door. It took the wrong one. Marcus backed away from the wardrobe so quickly he nearly tripped over the desk chair. Real Elise, the one beside him with blood at the corner of her mouth and one sleeve torn at the shoulder, did not look toward the wardrobe at all. She looked only at Marcus. "That is not me," she said quietly. The handle kept turning, not rattling with desperation. Turning with measured confidence, as if the person on the other side knew that panic would be less persuasive than calm. "Marcus," the voice inside said again in Elise's exact tone, lower now, intimate the way someone speaks to a frightened child. "Listen to my breathing. I am the real one." Marcus's skin crawled because he could hear breathing behind the wardrobe door. Steady, human, controlled. Elise moved carefully to the writing desk and pulled open the top drawer. From inside, she removed a small box of matches and a short hotel-branded candle, the kind left in suites for atmosphere. She set the candle on the floor before the wardrobe and lit it. Her hands trembled only once. "What does that do?" Marcus whispered. "It tells us whether the room is finished lying." The flame burned straight for 2 seconds, then leaned toward the wardrobe. From within came a soft chuckle in Elise's voice. "Still doing that, Elise. They threw you away years ago." Marcus looked sharply at her. For the first time since entering the room, Elise showed real hurt instead of fear. It passed almost instantly, replaced by composure, worn thin from long use. "Back to the door," she told him. "We leave now together without running. Do not answer anything the room says on the way out." Marcus nodded. They moved toward the suite entrance. His shoes waited exactly where he had left them, toes pointed toward the hall as if set there by careful hands. He slipped them on without sitting. Behind them, the wardrobe voice tried once more. Marcus had said now in his own voice. He stopped, despite himself. Elise's expression sharpened. "Do not." Marcus forced his feet moving again. When Elise opened the suite door, the corridor outside had returned to hotel normal in the most unsettling way possible. Warm sconces glowed. Carpet lay smooth and undisturbed. No silent staff lined the walls. No red emergency wash clung to the baseboards. The air smelled only faintly of polish. At the far end, an elevator chimed. Ordinary. That word felt obscene. They walked together toward the lift, not hurrying, and the silence behind them grew heavy enough that Marcus became acutely aware of every involuntary sound he made. Coat sleeve, brushing jacket heel, touching carpet, shallow breath. Halfway down the hall, he passed the photograph frame that earlier had failed to reflect him. This time, the glass showed both him and Elise, but not the corridor behind them. There was no room 1408 in the reflection. Only a continuation of hallway stretching much farther than reality, lit by older fixtures, doors wearing different brass numbers, and at the distant end, a cluster of figures watching from an impossible bend. Marcus looked away first. They reached the elevator bank. The down button was already lit. When the doors opened, the car stood empty except for a luggage cart folded against the back wall. Marcus did not remember anyone parking one there. Elise stepped inside, then caught his wrist before he followed. No mirrors, she said. Marcus realized the elevator walls, usually lined with polished reflective steel, were draped in cream hotel sheets, secured at the corners with black tape. Someone had covered them in advance. He entered without comment. The ride down felt too smooth, the descent almost gliding. No music played. No floor indicator changed after 12. Marcus stared at the seam of the doors until they opened onto the service level rather than the lobby. Elise led him through a back corridor to the security office. Only once they were inside with the deadbolt slid into place did either of them speak. Marcus sank into the chair by the monitor bank and discovered his whole body had begun shaking now that it was safe enough to do so. Elise washed the blood from her lip in the tiny sink and returned with a first aid kit. She set it down between them, then pulled the room 1408 folder close and added 2 fresh sheets to the front. "You are documenting this," Marcus said. Her tone was matter-of-fact again, almost grateful for the task. "If we do not document it, the room rewrites the pattern faster." Marcus let that sit because he did not have the strength to chase it. Elise cleaned the scrape on his shoulder where the thing had hit him. The bruise spreading there was already dark. "You were lucky," she said. "I do not feel lucky." "You are alive. That puts you in a short list." He almost laughed. Instead, he asked the question that had been waiting under everything else. "What happened to you years ago?" Elise kept her eyes on the bandage she was securing. "My first month here, I responded to a guest complaint from 1408 with Elena Ward. We found the room empty except for a child's shoe under the bed and a man's voice coming from the bathroom drain asking for his wife. Elena knew the rules. I did not. I answered when the voice said my name." Marcus said nothing. Elise finished taping the bandage. "After that, I started hearing myself in places I had never been." The room kept trying to continue the conversation. Elena stopped it mostly. "She taught me what to do. Then one night she did not come back out." Marcus looked toward the folder where Elena's photograph lay half visible. "She died in the room." Elise shook her head. "Officially, stroke in her apartment. Unofficially." Her mouth tightened. The hotel laundry on the basement level kept reporting an extra uniform on the night cart. Always pressed, always hers. Some mornings it was warm. The office fell quiet except for the soft electrical hum of the monitors. Marcus should have quit then. Anyone sane would have. Walk out before sunrise. Leave the blazer, the badge, the reports, the heritage ghosts, all of it. Yet exhaustion did strange things to judgment. Part of him believed that after surviving, the room leaving now would not free him from it. Another part knew the hotel had just shown him too much. People did not simply return to ordinary life after seeing their own face used like a stolen key. Elise sat at the desk and began writing the incident report longhand. At 4:12 in the morning, the office phone rang. Both of them went rigid. Not the red phone, the normal internal desk line. Elise answered on speaker without touching the receiver. Security. Naomi from front desk sounded exhausted and confused. "Sorry to bother you. We just had a guest complaint from 1410. Marcus's throat tightened. "What complaint?" Elise asked. Naomi shuffled papers audibly. "Knocking from the wrong wall. Guest says someone next door has been dragging furniture for the last hour. Also says she smelled perfume in the vent." Elise closed her eyes briefly. "Move the guest to another floor. Complimentary breakfast. Do not send anyone up." "Already done." Elise hung up. Neither of them spoke for a while after that. By 5, snow had stopped. Toronto beyond the lower windows looked bleached and fragile, the streets emptied into gray dawn. The hotel began its transition back into daytime lies. Early kitchen staff arrived. Deliveries came through loading. Coffee started somewhere on the service level. The ordinary world resumed with insulting efficiency. At 6:30, Elise locked the room 1408 file back in the drawer. "We rekey the room after sunrise," she said. We do not reopen it for at least 3 weeks. Her eyes met his. You can still walk away. Marcus looked at the camera feeds. Lobby, kitchen corridor, empty ballroom. 14th floor camera restored and showing nothing but a quiet stretch of hall. Can I? Elise did not answer. When the day shift security supervisor arrived just before 7, he found Marcus and Elise finishing paperwork in a room that smelled faintly of bleach coffee and old perfume. Elise told him there had been a late-night maintenance disturbance on 14 involving damaged radio equipment and a guest relocation. The supervisor accepted this without much curiosity, as people in old hotels often accepted things that sounded close enough to plausible. Marcus signed out 10 minutes later and left through the staff exit into a city turned white and silver under morning cloud. He stood on the sidewalk for a long time before walking away. The Ashdown Royale loomed above him in stone and brass, elegant as ever, curtains glowing gold in a few upper windows. From outside, there was nothing to suggest the building had tried to correct him before dawn. Nothing but one detail. On the 14th floor, second window from the end, the curtains of room 1408 were open. And behind the glass, just for a second before the fabric drifted shut again, Marcus saw a man in a security jacket standing inside watching him leave. Marcus did not go back to work the next night. He told himself he needed sleep distance a doctor for his shoulder time to decide whether to file a formal report with someone outside the hotel. Human resources, the police, a lawyer, a priest. The options felt equally absurd by daylight. He rented a small apartment in a brick building near the eastern edge of downtown, the kind with narrow hallways, old radiators, and windows that rattled when streetcars passed. He had lived there 2 years without incident. The place had no history he knew of, no luxury legends, no sealed incident files. Just thin walls and neighbors who played music too late on weekends. He slept from 9 in the morning until almost 5 in the afternoon and woke from shallow dreams in which a wardrobe door kept opening onto hotel corridors that did not belong to any floor. When he checked his phone, he found 3 missed calls from the Ashdown Royale. No voicemails. One text from Elise. Are you hearing anything that sounds like you? Marcus stared at it for a long time, then typed back, no. That was not true. He had heard something at around noon just before sleep finally took him. Soft footsteps crossing the apartment hallway outside his bedroom when he knew he was alone. Not loud enough to be the upstairs tenant. Too careful for that. Measured. Familiar. He had ignored it then. He ignored it again now. He made coffee, took painkillers for his shoulder, and tried to do ordinary things. Laundry, shower, television without following the plot. At 7:15, the power flickered once recovered and left his apartment dimmer than before, because the sky outside had turned the dirty blue of early winter evening. At 7:22, somebody knocked on his apartment door. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Marcus stood frozen in the kitchen. The knock came again. No one used that pattern by accident. Not after the night before, not after the wardrobe. He approached the door without a sound and looked through the peephole. Nothing. The corridor outside his apartment stretched empty beneath weak ceiling lights. His neighbor's welcome mat. The fire extinguisher cabinet. No visitor. Then, very close to the door from the other side, his own voice said, I know you are in there. Marcus stumbled back so hard he hit the wall. He called Elise immediately. She answered on the first ring as though waiting with the phone in hand. You should not have left before dawn fully broke, she said. What followed me? Not a question. Elise exhaled slowly. Did you answer it in the room? Number. Did you answer it after? Marcus looked toward his apartment door. The voice outside had gone silent. I do not think so. A pause. Think harder. He did. The closet, the corridor, the room, the phone, the wardrobe. He had not answered his name there, had not opened the door, had not spoken to the thing in the elevator. Then memory surfaced small and stupid and devastating. When he left the hotel that morning and saw the figure in room 1408 watching from the window, he had whispered one word to himself on the sidewalk. What? Just that. Not his name, not an invitation, barely speech at all. But maybe the room did not need much once a sequence reached correction. Marcus told Elise. Her silence lasted too long. Finally, she said, do not open the door to anything tonight. Do not look in any mirror after midnight. And if the phone rings at 3:70, his apartment landline rang. Marcus had never used the landline. It came with a unit beige and wall mounted beside the fridge, mostly forgotten. He had not even known it was connected. He turned slowly toward it. "What do I do?" he whispered. Elise's voice lowered. "We were wrong about one thing." The landline rang again. "We thought 1408 needed a room." Third ring. "It does not." Fourth ring. "It needs rules." The line went dead. Marcus stood alone in his apartment while the phone continued ringing. He should have unplugged it, smashed it, walked out, called the police. But fear at that point had become a shape too large for practical thought. He could only watch the beige phone shake slightly against the wall, with each ring an object from another era, suddenly more alive than the rest of the room. On the sixth ring, it stopped. The receiver lifted on its own with a small click, and the operator's voice said with exquisite politeness, "Good evening. Before we proceed, kindly confirm the room under which you are staying." Marcus looked around his apartment. His shoes stood by the front door exactly parallel to each other, though he had left them near the couch. The bathroom mirror visible down the hall reflected not his sink, but a dark window with snow drifting past it. And from beneath his bed in the next room, he heard the first slow inhale. Only then did Marcus understand the real structure of the horror. Room 1408 had never been haunted in the ordinary sense. It was not a place where something lived. It was a procedure. A set of conditions, a sequence that could begin in a hotel room because enough people believed it belonged there, because enough staff had fed it rules and fear and documentation for decades. But once witnessed properly, once survived incorrectly, the sequence no longer needed the suite. It could unfold anywhere the witness went, anywhere with a door, a mirror, a bed, a phone, and a name to borrow. Marcus backed into the living room, eyes fixed on the hall to his bedroom. The breathing under the bed continued patient and moist and close to the floorboards. The operator on the phone waited without repeating himself. Then, someone knocked from inside his bedroom closet. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. The apartment lights dimmed, and in the dark television screen across from him, Marcus saw his reflection entering the room a half second too late.